I was standing in our living room when Gabriel looked at my stomach and asked who the father was. Not asked, accused. His voice was calm, which made it worse. There was no anger, no confusion, just cold certainty, like he'd already held the trial in his head and found me guilty. My hand instinctively went to my belly, protecting the baby from words that felt like weapons. "What are you talking about?" I whispered. He crossed his arms. "You know exactly what I'm talking about, Rita." The air left my lungs. I'd spent 6 months alone while he worked 3 states away, counting down days until he'd come home. I decorated the nursery by myself, gone to every appointment alone, and fallen asleep every night missing him. And now he was looking at me like I was a stranger. Like I was a liar. I tried to explain, but every word made him angrier. "Gabriel, this is your baby. How can you even—" "Don't." He held up his hand. "Just don't lie to me anymore." "I'm not lying." My voice cracked. "I've been here alone for months waiting for you. I haven't done anything wrong." He laughed. Not a real laugh. Something bitter and ugly. "That's what makes this so pathetic, Rita. You're still pretending." I felt dizzy. This wasn't my husband. This wasn't the man who'd kissed me goodbye at the airport 6 months ago, promising we'd get through the distance together. "Where is this coming from?" I asked. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said a name that made my blood run cold. Derek. Derek was Gabriel's coworker from years ago, someone I'd met exactly twice at company events. I barely remembered what he looked like. "Derek?" I repeated, confused. "What does he have to do with anything?" "Don't play dumb." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "I know you've been seeing him." "Seeing him?" "Gabriel, I haven't seen Derek in 3 years." "That's not what I heard." I stepped closer. "What did you hear? Who told you this?" He wouldn't look at me. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm not raising another man's child." The words hit me like a punch. "Another man's child?" I whispered. I felt my knees weaken. This wasn't an argument. This was an ending. He'd already decided. Nothing I said would change his mind. I spent the next hour trying to reason with him. I showed him my phone, my calendar, my emails. "Look," I said desperately. "I've been here the entire time, at home, alone. There's nothing to find because nothing happened." He glanced at my phone for exactly 2 seconds. "Anyone can delete messages." "Then what do you want from me?" I shouted. "What proof would you even accept?" "There is no proof," he said quietly. "Because you're lying." I realized then that he didn't want proof. He wanted permission to leave. Someone had planted this lie in his head, and he'd grabbed onto it because it was easier than the truth. Easier than admitting he regretted the baby. Easier than saying he didn't want to be a father. The next morning, Gabriel placed papers on the kitchen table. Divorce papers, already filled out, already signed on his side. "You had these ready," I said slowly. "I had them prepared last week." Last week. Before he even confronted me. Before I had a chance to defend myself, he'd planned this whole thing. "Gabriel, please. I need you out by Friday," he interrupted. "The house is in my name. You can't stay here. I'm 6 months pregnant." That's not my problem anymore. I stared at the man I'd married, searching for anything familiar. But he was gone. Replaced by someone who looked at me with nothing but contempt. I picked up the papers with shaking hands. "Fine," I whispered. I left that Friday with 2 suitcases and nowhere to go. Gabriel watched from the doorway as I loaded my car, arms crossed, face blank. He didn't offer to help. Didn't ask if I'd be okay. Didn't even look at my stomach. His phone buzzed, and he answered it immediately, turning his back to me. I heard him laugh at something the person said. That laugh, casual, light, unburdened, told me everything. He wasn't devastated. He wasn't conflicted. He was relieved. I drove to my sister Angela's apartment on the other side of town, crying so hard I had to pull over twice. When I finally arrived, Angela opened the door and wrapped her arms around me without asking questions. She already knew. Everyone knew. Gabriel had made sure of that. Over the next few days, I learned what Gabriel had been telling people. According to him, I'd had an affair while he was working out of state. I'd gotten pregnant by another man and tried to pass the baby off as his. He discovered the truth and bravely ended the marriage. He was the victim. I was the villain. Friends stopped calling. People I'd known for years wouldn't make eye contact at the grocery store. Gabriel's mother sent me a single text. "I'm so disappointed in you." No one asked for my side. No one questioned his story. They just believed him because he said it first, said it loudly, and said it with confidence. I stopped trying to defend myself. What was the point? They'd already made up their minds. Instead, I decided to wait. Angela wanted me to fight back immediately. You need to demand a DNA test, she said. Make him look stupid in front of everyone. Not yet, I replied. What do you mean, not yet? Rita, he's destroying your reputation, I know. I folded my hands over my stomach. But I'm not doing this on his timeline anymore. I'm done reacting to him. Angela didn't understand, but I did. Gabriel wanted a reaction. He wanted me to beg, to cry, to chase after him with proof. I wasn't going to give him that. I was going to let him sit in his certainty, let him build his new life on a foundation of lies. And then I was going to let the truth collapse it. Months passed. I found a small apartment and a job doing remote bookkeeping. Angela helped me set up the nursery with secondhand furniture and donated clothes. Gabriel never called, never checked on me, never asked about the baby. In his mind, I didn't exist anymore. That was fine, because in my mind, he didn't either. I went to every doctor's appointment alone. I assembled the crib by myself. I read parenting books late at night and felt my daughter kick while I cried quietly in the dark. But I also grew stronger, clearer, more certain of who I was. I wasn't the woman Gabriel had accused me of being. I'd never been that woman, and soon everyone else would know it too. I gave birth on a cold November morning. Angela was in the delivery room with me, holding my hand and telling me I was doing great. When my daughter finally arrived, tiny, red-faced, screaming, I felt something inside me settle. This was my family now. This small, perfect person who didn't care about rumors or reputations or who believed what. I named her Clara, after my grandmother. Angela took a photo of us in the hospital bed, me exhausted and tear-stained, Clara sleeping on my chest, and asked if I wanted to post it online. No, I said, not yet. When? I smiled for the first time in months, when the time is right. 2 weeks after Clara was born, Gabriel's number appeared on my phone. I stared at it for a long time before answering. Hello? Rita. His voice was different, uncertain. I heard you had the baby. I did. Silence. Is it? He stopped. Started again. Is it a boy or a girl? A girl. More silence. I heard him breathing on the other end, working up the courage to say whatever he'd called to say. I've been thinking, he finally said. Maybe we should do a DNA test. Just to, be sure. I felt a surge of anger, then something colder, satisfaction. Okay, I said calmly, let's do it. Gabriel wanted to come to my apartment to discuss the test. I told him no. We'd meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, and keep it professional. When I arrived with Clara in her carrier, Gabriel was already there. He looked older, tired. His hair was longer, and he'd lost weight. He stared at Clara for a long moment. She looks, he trailed off. Like me, I finished. She has my eyes. He nodded slowly, still staring. I pulled out the paperwork from the DNA testing company I'd already contacted. Here's how this works, I said. We both get swabbed. Results come back in 5 days. Everything is documented through the lab, so there's no question about accuracy. Gabriel took the papers. Okay. And Gabriel? I looked at him directly. After this, you don't contact me again unless it's through a lawyer. I'm done having conversations with you. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. Fine. We went to the lab that same afternoon. The technician swabbed Gabriel's cheek, then Clara's, while I held her tiny hand. Results in 5 business days, the technician said cheerfully, labeling the samples. Gabriel stood awkwardly by the door, watching us. Rita? Don't, I said quietly. There's nothing to talk about until we have the results. He left without another word. I strapped Clara back into her carrier and walked out into the sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in months. 5 days. That's all I had to wait. 5 days until his entire world fell apart. During those 5 days, Gabriel called me 3 times. I didn't answer. He sent text messages asking if I was okay, if Clara was okay, if I needed anything. I didn't respond. Angela asked why I was being so cold. Because he doesn't get to do this, I said. He doesn't get to throw me away and then act concerned when it's convenient. He made his choice. But what if he regrets it? Then he'll learn to live with regret. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. Gabriel had decided I was guilty without evidence, without trust, without love. Now he would face the consequences of that decision. Whether he regretted it or not wasn't my problem anymore. On the 5th day, I received an email notification. The DNA test results were ready. I opened the portal on my laptop while Angela looked over my shoulder, Clara sleeping in her bassinet nearby. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. There it was, in black and white. Scientific proof that Gabriel was Clara's father. Proof that I'd been telling the truth all along. Send it to him, Angela urged. No. I closed the laptop. He'll get the results in his own email. I'm not hand-delivering his karma. Angela grinned. You're cold-blooded, Rita. No, I said. I'm just done protecting him from himself. Within an hour, my phone started ringing. Gabriel. Over and over. I silenced it and went to make dinner. 3 days later, Gabriel showed up at my apartment. I saw him through the peephole, pacing in the hallway, running his hands through his hair. I didn't open the door. Rita, he knocked harder. I know you're in there. Please, I just want to talk. Angela came out of the kitchen. Want me to call the cops? Not yet. Gabriel knocked again. Rita, I got the results. I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. I leaned against the door and spoke loud enough for him to hear. There's nothing to explain, Gabriel. You made a choice. Now live with it. Please. His voice cracked. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But we can fix this. No, I said, we can't, because I don't want to. I heard him slide down against the door. Rita, I walked away and picked up Clara, holding her close while she cooed softly. Eventually, Gabriel left. The next morning, I posted a single photo on social media. The hospital picture Angela had taken, me and Clara, exhausted but together. The caption read, My whole world. Just the two of us. Within minutes, the comments started flooding in. Questions, confusion, congratulations. Then someone, I never found out who, commented, Didn't her ex say the baby wasn't his? And just like that, people started connecting the dots. Gabriel's phone number was suddenly unreachable. His social media went private because everyone was asking the same question. If the baby wasn't his, why was he calling Rita now? Why was he trying to see her? What had he been lying about? Gabriel's mother called me 2 weeks later. Rita, I owe you an apology. I almost hung up, but something in her voice stopped me. I believed my son without question, she continued. I said terrible things about you. And I was wrong. Completely wrong. Yes, I said simply, you were. Is there anything I can do? Any way I can make this right? No, Mrs. Torres, there isn't. I don't need anything from you or Gabriel. I just need to be left alone. She was quiet for a moment. You're raising Clara by yourself? With my sister's help, but yes. That's not fair to you. Gabriel should. Gabriel made his choice, I interrupted, and I've made mine. Clara and I are fine. We don't need him. I hung up before she could respond. Over the following months, I heard things through mutual friends. Gabriel had lost several friendships. People stopped inviting him places. His confidence, the thing that had made his lies so believable, was gone. He tried to explain himself on social media once, posting a long apology that started with, I made a terrible mistake and ended with I hope someday Rita can forgive me. The comments were brutal. People called him a coward, a liar, a deadbeat father. Someone shared the DNA test results publicly. Gabriel deleted the post within hours, but the screenshots were everywhere. His reputation, the one he'd built on my destruction, was completely shattered. And I felt nothing. Angela asked me once if I ever felt guilty. For what? For letting him suffer like this. I thought about it while folding Clara's tiny clothes. No, I said finally. I didn't make him suffer. He did that to himself. I just refused to save him from the consequences. That's fair, Angela admitted. He could have trusted me, I continued. He could have asked questions, talked to me, worked through his doubts. Instead, he chose to believe I was a liar. He chose to abandon me while I was pregnant. He chose to destroy my reputation before I could defend myself. I looked at Clara sleeping peacefully in her swing. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. When Clara turned 6 months old, Gabriel requested supervised visitation through his lawyer. I agreed. Not because I wanted him in her life, but because legally, it was the right thing to do. The first visit was awkward and painful. Gabriel sat across from Clara in a supervised facility, trying to make her smile. She stared at him like he was a stranger, because he was. She doesn't know me, he said quietly. No, I replied. She doesn't. That's my fault. Yes, it is. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Do you think she'll ever forgive me? I don't know, Gabriel. That's something you'll have to earn. He nodded slowly. And you? Will you ever forgive me? I stood up, gathering Clara's things. I've already moved on, I said. Whether you have or not doesn't matter to me anymore. A year after everything fell apart, I finally felt whole again. Clara was walking, babbling, laughing at everything. Angela had moved into a bigger apartment so we could share space. I'd gotten a promotion at work and was saving for a house. Gabriel saw Clara twice a month under supervision. He paid child support on time and didn't push for more than I was willing to give. Sometimes I wondered if he understood what he'd lost. Not just me or Clara, but the life we could have had. But mostly, I didn't think about him at all. That was the biggest victory. Not that he'd been proven wrong. Not that his reputation was ruined, but that I no longer cared. One afternoon, I ran into Gabriel at the park. He was alone, sitting on a bench, watching families play. When he saw me pushing Clara on the swings, he stood up, hesitating. I nodded. A simple acknowledgement. He walked over slowly. She's gotten so big. She has. Rita, he stopped, searching for words. I know I destroyed everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that I think about what I did every single day, and I hate myself for it. I looked at him, really looked at him. He meant it. The regret was real, but it didn't change anything. I believe you, I said. But Gabriel, your regret doesn't erase what you did. It just means you finally understand. I know. We stood in silence while Clara laughed on the swing. I hope you find peace, I said finally. I really do. But I can't give it to you. He nodded. I understand. 2 years after the accusation, I bought a small house. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, and a neighborhood full of families. Clara had her own room with butterfly decals on the walls. I had a home office where I worked while she napped. Angela came over every Sunday for dinner. We'd cook together while Clara played with her toys, filling the house with laughter and warmth. I never remarried, never even dated. Not because I was bitter, but because I was complete. Gabriel had tried to break me by taking everything away. Instead, he'd taught me that I didn't need him, or anyone, to build a beautiful life. I'd done it myself, on my own terms, with my own strength. And that was the revenge he'd never recover from. People sometimes asked me if I wished things had been different, if I wished Gabriel had believed me, if I wished we'd worked it out, if I wished Clara had grown up with her father. The answer was always no. Because the woman I became after Gabriel left was stronger than the woman I'd been with him. I'd learned to trust myself, to stand alone, to build something real without needing validation from anyone else. Clara would grow up watching her mother rise after falling. She'd learn that betrayal doesn't define you, your response to it does. And Gabriel? He'd spend the rest of his life knowing he threw away something real because he chose to believe a lie. That wasn't my revenge. That was his consequence. And there's a difference. I won by walking away whole, by never needing him again, by building a life so full and complete that his absence didn't matter. In the end, that was the part he could never recover from, and I was perfectly fine with that.